My name is Lily. I live in a small town where life moves at a slow and steady pace. Every morning, I walk to the little bakery around the corner to buy fresh bread, greeting the familiar faces of my neighbors along the way. It's a simple life, but it feels safe, predictable, even. I work as a graphic designer, creating logos, flyers, and posters for local businesses. My workspace is my small, cozy apartment where the sunlight streams through the window, painting golden patterns on the wooden floor. Outside, I can hear children laughing and birds chirping. But while my surroundings were alive with joy and connection, I often felt like something was missing in my life. Sure, I had friends and family, but as I watched couples walking hand in hand in the park or smiling across tables in cafes, I couldn't help but feel a pang of loneliness. I wanted to be loved, to feel that sense of belonging that seemed to light up other people's lives. I'd had a few relationships before, but none of them felt right. Most of the time, I told myself it was better this way. Being single meant freedom, no heartbreak, no drama. But deep down, I longed for someone to share my life with. Then one day, everything changed. It was a Saturday afternoon when I met him. I was at my favorite bookstore, a quaint little shop tucked away on a quiet street. The smell of coffee from the cafe inside mixed with the scent of old books, creating an atmosphere that felt magical. As I browsed through the travel section, dreaming of far-off places I'd probably never visit, a voice behind me said, "Planning a trip?" Startled, I turned around to see a man standing there. He had a warm smile, dark hair, and the kind of eyes that seemed to see right through you. "No, not really," I replied, holding up a book about Italy. "Just daydreaming." He chuckled. "Italy's beautiful. You should go someday. It's even better than the pictures." We started talking, and I learned his name was Ryan. He was in town for work, managing a construction project. He told me he loved books too, especially travel memoirs, because they made him feel like he was exploring the world through someone else's eyes. There was something about him that made me feel comfortable, like I'd known him forever. When we parted ways, he handed me his business card. "If you ever want to grab coffee or talk about books, give me a call," he said with a wink. I smiled, slipping the card into my pocket. I wasn't sure if I'd actually call him, but later that evening, as I sat alone in my apartment, I found myself staring at the card. My heart was racing as I dialed his number. From that day on, Ryan and I became inseparable. He was charming, thoughtful, and funny. He had a way of making me feel special, like I was the only person in the world who mattered to him. He would surprise me with little gestures, a coffee waiting for me at my door in the morning, a handwritten note tucked into a book he knew I wanted to read. We spent hours talking about everything and nothing, laughing until our cheeks hurt. But there were moments when I felt like something wasn't quite right. Ryan was always busy. He'd rush off after our dates, claiming he had early meetings or last-minute work calls. And while he often spoke about his dreams and plans, he rarely talked about his past. One evening, I finally worked up the courage to ask him. We were sitting on the couch in my apartment, sharing a bottle of wine. "Ryan," I said hesitantly, "you're so good at making me feel like I'm a part of your life, but I realize I don't know much about it. What's your family like? Your friends?" He smiled, but there was a flicker of something in his eyes, nervousness maybe. "My family's pretty private," he said, "and I don't really have many close friends in this town since I'm always moving around for work." I wanted to believe him. I told myself it made sense. His job kept him busy, and not everyone was as open about their personal life. But a small voice in the back of my mind whispered that there was more to the story. One night, Ryan invited me over to his apartment for dinner. He had cooked a delicious meal, and we were laughing and talking as if the rest of the world didn't exist. For a moment, I let myself believe this was real, that this could be my forever. Then his phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, his face tensing for a split second before he silenced it and slid the phone into his pocket. "Who was that?" I asked casually, though my heart was pounding. "Just work," he said quickly. "Nothing important." But I couldn't shake the feeling that he was hiding something. The next day, while Ryan was at work, curiosity got the better of me. I searched his name online, hoping to find some reassurance that I was overthinking things. Instead, what I found shattered my world. There, on a social media page, was a picture of Ryan with a woman. She was beautiful, with long blonde hair and a bright smile. The caption read, "Celebrating 10 amazing years with my husband Ryan. Here's to many more." I stared at the screen, my stomach twisting into knots. My hands were shaking as I scrolled through the page, seeing picture after picture of them together. A happy couple, with a life I hadn't been a part of. He was married. My chest felt heavy as I dialed Ryan's number, my fingers trembling. When he picked up, his voice was cheerful, as if nothing was wrong. "Hey, Lily," he said. "What's up?" "I know the truth, Ryan," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "I know you're married." The line went silent. When he finally spoke, his voice was full of regret. "Lily, I can explain." I cut him off. "There's nothing to explain. You lied to me. You made me believe we had something real. I didn't mean to hurt you," he said desperately. "My marriage, it's complicated. I didn't plan for this to happen." "Complicated?" I said, my voice rising. "You have a wife, Ryan. That's not complicated. That's betrayal. I care about you," he pleaded. "Please, just give me a chance to make this right." But I couldn't listen anymore. I hung up, tears streaming down my face. In the days that followed, I felt like I was walking through a fog. The pain was overwhelming, but I refused to let it consume me. I threw myself into work, leaning on my best friend Sarah, who reminded me that I deserved better. "You're stronger than you think, Lily," she said, "and this doesn't define you. It's just a chapter in your story." Her words stayed with me. Slowly, I started to rebuild my life. I joined a yoga class, started journaling, and even planned a solo trip to Italy, a dream I'd had long before Ryan came into my life. Standing on a hill in Florence, looking out over the city's glowing rooftops, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't known in a long time. Ryan had been a painful lesson, but he had also reminded me of my own strength and the kind of love I deserved. As the sun set, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink, I smiled to myself. This was my life, messy, unpredictable, but mine. And I was ready to embrace it fully. For more stories like this, subscribe and turn on notifications.